your factory settings for your agency. And this is for the agency owner that is like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about this. I don't know. I'm comfortable. I feel this like achy pain and I don't know why. My campaigns are working, but they're not. Like you're not quite sure and you don't really have this grasp of like a fundamentals and you're kind of like stressing out because of it. Um, More so if you've got clients that are like, I don't know if this campaign is working. Uh, do we have enough leads? What's our closing rate? Like all these like weird questions that you're never really quite sure how to answer. That's what we're going to be going over in this like factory settings for your agency. And this applies to, I would say 95% of businesses. Like I'm not kidding, 95% of businesses. If you happen to be a freelancer that is not a business owner, this probably won't apply. If you're dealing with a business that has no fixed costs, that is, oh, wait, hold on. Let's try that again. Has like no fixed costs, is entirely like online, like the weird ones, right? Like not a normal mom and pop, then this probably doesn't apply to you. But if you really want to have a fundamental grasp and understanding of you and your agency and the numbers and stuff like that, this is massively applicable to you and your business and things like that. In fact, by the way, I've used this and gone over these numbers with clients that, hey, this is not good. There's not enough ROI, and I walk them through this exercise and they're much more calm. And then they're like, okay, cool. There's an ROI, just was confused or couldn't see it or something like that. Or they're getting like negative response from their salespeople or from their front desk or something like that. So the first step is really outlining the factory. And for most businesses, there's about 5 or 6 steps of the factory. And this is either your agency factory or campaign factory or client factory. Just imagine like small business owner style, like way back in the day when a business owner was like a butcher, a candlestick maker, uh, a guy that like made bottles, a tailor, like normal small business things. That's what you have to imagine, right? And they have inputs and they have outputs. They have materials that they do stuff to, and then they sell the suit. People come in and you have a conversation. Not everybody buys, but a certain percentage of them buy. You get phone calls and everybody's calling in, and then you schedule an appointment, like normal stuff. Like imagine you're in a village, right? You are a blacksmith. Like that's what we're talking about. The modern day version could be like Ford or GM or Chrysler. Like they buy transmissions, do stuff, and then they sell transmissions, that type of thing. And for you and your agency and for your clients, come on, Arrow. I don't want you there. I want you dead center. There are bullet points, squares, positions, whatever we're calling this, right? There's certain inputs. And for the most part, your campaign operates like a factory. Just like this. Your campaign operates like a factory. The more you get your campaign to operate like a factory, you'll feel a lot better and so will your client. So the first part, the first like input, the materials, this is leads. These are people that raise their hand saying, I'm kind of interested. Let's talk. I may be interested in buying. Here's my name, number, and email. Let's have a conversation. These could be patients or roofing gigs or quotes or surgeries or people inquiring about a surgery or whatever like that lead is. And not like a phone call, not a show, not talking about that. I'm talking like I've opted in. Let's have a conversation. There's other parts we're going to put in referrals or super high quality, but we're just starting like an inquiry from the internet or like the old versions. Like I wrote in my name, number, and email for a call back, right? And a lot of this, by the way, applies to the 520 rule. And I'll show you what that means in a second. To start out, you have a cost to those leads. Like if you were a chef and you had a whole night out and you had a whole bunch of people coming in and you sold out for your dinner and you had to buy mushrooms, right? You have cost of those mushrooms. You're gonna do stuff to those mushrooms so they sell, but you have cost of those mushrooms. And just like Gordon Ramsay, you have costs. And if they're too big or too low, it could still kind of work. Maybe the quality is there or not, but you're going to ballpark a cost for mushrooms or eggs or transmissions or cloth or whatever, satin. So on average, you should be aiming for a cost per lead between $5 and $10. This is what you should be aiming for. Of course, lower is better sometimes. Higher is better, of course, sometimes. But this is like what you should be aiming for. This is your target between $5 and $10. There are some niches and some industries where like a cost per lead of like $25 is totally fine. But for the most part, what you need right now is a consciousness and understanding of like what your factory settings, your baseline, what it should be, right? And so let's just say for this example, it's $5 to $10. This is the first part of the 520 rule. So it should be $5. Lower the better is great sometimes. Like again, earlier, like maybe you're accidentally buying a bunch of bad mushrooms and you're not really sure. So you have to like track it and double check the quality and make sure it goes through the thing and everything's okay. And maybe you're buying really expensive truffles and maybe they're good, maybe not, you don't know. So you're going to have like stuff out of bounds. That doesn't mean your campaign is horrible and bad. That just means you have to make sure that your campaign is still operating like a factory. But your input is going to be $5 to $10 per lead. If you can get $5 to $10 per lead, you're going to be jumping up and down. If you can't get between $5 and $10 per lead, you're going to have to do stuff like change the angles, the hooks, the offer, change the creative. Maybe instead of saying it's $3,000, you say it's, or sorry, instead of saying the Honda Civic is $23,000, you say the Honda Civic is $220 a month, something like that. Like you're going to have to change your outward communication and what you're saying and how you're saying to get to a price point of like your cost per lead between $5 and $10. Next is a booked appointment. And a mistake a lot of people make is they're like, booked appointments, just get more booked appointments. Oh my God, people are scheduling and stuff like that. And that's cool. As it turns out, that kind of sometimes messes up your downline and the next step when it comes to shows. And so what you want to do with your booked appointments is you want to get to a point where 1 out of 5 people schedule a booked appointment. Booked appointment. That means out of 5 people on the phone, 1 out of those 5, or 20%, are good enough to schedule an appointment. And again, this is where the 20 number comes from, part of the 20 rule. Maybe higher is good, maybe lower is good, but for the most part, what we're seeing with our campaigns, which are local business owners, they will get, let's just say 5 leads, and one of those leads will book an appointment. I am not, by the way, doing all these automations on like, schedule a time, book appointment, reminder. Right now, what we're doing is we're getting people on the phone and having qualified conversations. We're like actively looking to disqualify people. Like, hey, do you have money? No, sorry, we can't service you. Are you way outside of the radius? Sorry, can't service you. Oh, you're just browsing. Sorry, we can't service you. And so we're actively looking to get rid of people because we want to have a good person on the books as opposed to 4 bad people on the books and 1 good person on the books. Actively looking to get rid of people who are not qualified makes everything else easier. And when you have too many booked appointments, and this 4 out of 5 here, it messes up everything else. It's kind of like you have a bunch of bad materials in your factory and you freak out because like everything is broken. And there's a lot of agencies out there arguing like, well, maybe it should matter, maybe it shouldn't. I'll tell you what, I don't know. Like I've just been doing this for 5 years, and I'll tell you what, when clients tell me it matters, I gotta like, they're writing the check, right? And so a lot of clients are telling us they'd rather have 1 person on the books and have that person show up than 4 people on the books and 3 maybe show up and 1 shows up. They'd much rather have some consistently reliability and predictability in their business and have a good show rate. And what we found is that 20% of the people that fill out the form will pick up the phone, have a qualifying conversation that's 5 to 10 minutes or somewhat qualified. That's it, right? From there, we've got a show. And let's just say a show for normal businesses is somebody goes to the office, or a show is somebody that is there when they drive to the business or drive to the house. So like if a carpet cleaner version of a show is like we go to the homeowner and they are there, that's a show. If you are a personal trainer and somebody comes to your facilities at your gym, that's a show, right? We found stereotypically 50% of, let's just say, somewhat qualified people end up showing for their appointment. just like this. Now, keep in mind, this assumes that you're offering same day, next day, 72 hours, that you've got people that are nearby, local, you're not booking the worst people in the world, and the business has normal hours, things along those lines. We're seeing a 50% show rate of somewhat qualified people end up showing up for their appointment. That's what works for us and makes our clients very, very happy. If they end up doing like a higher show rate, cool. If it's a lower show rate, they start freaking out and they're like, I don't know if this is any good. I don't like it. I'm not having a bad time, things along those lines. So we see again that 50% rule or that 5 pop up just like this. I'm going to go into how to play with these and strings on the internet kind of thing in a little bit, but this is just the basics, right? The next step is a close. So an exchange of dollars or a signed contract or something like that. So let's just put close. Let's do 15 right here, just like this. And here, we've seen stereotypically again, 1 out of 5 people end up closing in terms of contracts, dollars, or exchange of money, just like this. And what's 1 out of 5? 20%, just like this. And this is like one of those like agency rules of the universe or something like that. These are real numbers from our real client, and we're charging him anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000 every other day. He's got 10 locations. He's a business owner that happens to be in profession, not the other way around. He's not a freelancer or a small business. He's like, no, man, like we do $400,000 to $500,000 a month. This is how we've used his business. We've been looking at his numbers, and this is the rule: $5 leads, 20% booked appointments, 50% shows, 20% close. That's it. 5-20 rule. Then there's that next step, which is called ROI. This is ultimately where campaigns get graded on. An ROI between 500 and 600% makes clients happy. If it's higher, there's an argument that yes, it's great, fine, perfect, everybody's jumping up and down. But you could also make an argument that is a spike or a burst and low-hanging fruit, and that's not really going to work out long-term, kind of like you can't keep reactivating customers kind of thing. Anything lower and your client will not be happy. This, of course, depends on your client's costs and structure of their business. If you are selling online books and they're delivered immediately and your only cost is Facebook ads, you are more than happy to take a 200% return on investment. You're literally doubling your money. If you are a pest control business and you have all these trucks and all these employees and you have to send somebody about every 3 months, all of a sudden you've got much higher costs and you can't deal with a 500% return on investment. It's got to be 700 to 800 or even 1,000% return on investment. If you're a restaurant and all you're getting is $1 in or $1 out and $5 in, you actually don't make money in the restaurant. Again, this is just basics, things along those lines. You will have different numbers depending upon you and your business. There's the ROI. Now, what's interesting, by the way, is that there's a bonus category called retaining, referrals, and upsells. Most businesses don't really view marketing with that category. Most businesses view it as this. If we end up doing our job correctly, we can have our clients having a conversation about retaining clients, referring clients, and upselling so that the ROI ends up being higher over the course of time. That time is determined by you, your client, your selling, and your business. As an example, if we are doing this process for a car dealer that's selling $50,000 cars, their turnaround time or time for a sale could be 60 days. Normal, right? But it's totally possible that This person ends up coming back, bringing a friend or a family member. And now over the course of 120 days, they've sold 2 cars or 2.5 cars or 3 cars. If you're in the business of pest control and you train your client's staff to put little stickers on the neighbors' homes and incentivize that initial pest control customer to refer you business or pre-buy a year-long thing, and you do that over the course of 60 days, now all of a sudden the ROI in your campaign is not 30 days, but instead or not 500% over 30 days, but 1,000 over 90 days. So this is where most conversations with clients end up failing out. And it's actually pretty hard to have this conversation one-on-one with a client after the fact. Like if they're coming at you and saying, hey, we only made 300% return on investment, and you come back and say like, yeah, but if you retain and referral and upsell correctly, make more money, it's not a conversation that's gonna make everybody happy. But if you have courses and modules and books and SOPs and videos on how to increase the amount of time that you retain a client, how you can generate referrals and upsells, and how you can get an extra 200-300% bump on your ROI, and you clear in the course area, they have to argue like an old man yelling at the TV, and it doesn't quite work that way. They're like, okay, I'll listen in. And now all of a sudden, they are more open to the idea of you sending an email out to everybody so that they get more ROI on their campaign. But this is stereotypically what we have seen with our business. $5 to $10, so let's just say 5, 20% book an appointment, 50% and 20%. And then there's that 5 again, 500% return on investment. I've seen over the course of my lifetime with all this stuff, and even most recently with my new agency, as we gain and lose clients, if it's under 5, they start questioning. If it's over 5, they're happy. The bare bottom is like 3 to 4, and they're going to be like, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing money or barely breaking even, or it's not worth the time or the frustration. But higher up, the better. Now, let's say you apply this thought process correctly, and now you've got a factory. You've got workers, you've got materials coming in. They're doing the dials and the dashboards and pushing stuff. Just imagine like the Jetsons future, but like the Sprague factory. Does everybody remember that? Like Stanley Sprockets or something like that. Like they're making sprockets, right? And you're in charge of this factory. And your job is to increase the ROI, increase the yield, to make this darn thing work. Like you are literally running a factory. What can you do to increase these numbers and make them better? Well, right here, what we can do a couple things. To increase this number up or down, we can change the offer, the image, the headline, the creative, the dollars, the offer, the ask, the anything right here. We can look at stuff that's worked in the past, worked for other clients, and even competition. We can do all that fun stuff. And ultimately, the goal here is to lower the cost per lead. You'll notice earlier I mentioned like, hey, sometimes a cost per lead lower is not better. You're right. You're going to have to do some testing and figure it out. But let's just say your cost per lead is $15 and you're like, my numbers ain't going to work. Cool. What can you do to change it? You can look at go and do pest control. What is the top pest control company doing? What's their offer? What's getting people in the door? What's getting people calling them every single day? Talk to your clients, say like, hey, what ads have you done in the past that's make people jumping up and down? I saw people in your area running this. Did you want to do it? As an example, like with dental implants, let's just say we're running ads saying, hey, dental implant special, $2,100. But our cost per lead is like $15. Nobody's opting in. Cool. What if we did 50% down? Okay, not really working the way we want it to. What if we did $104 per month with financing? What about the other stuff that we could do to make them happier and healthier? Cool. Let's say booked appointment. Our booked appointment rates are not good enough to get people on the phone. Can we incentivize a show up? Call now to confirm your spot. Are there any reminders, automations? Are we selling the call? Hey, Mr. Johnson, want to let you know in 15 minutes, I'm going to be sending you a phone call. I'm going to give you a call. I'm super psyched because we're going to go over the 5 or 6 ways you can use our product and service to have a better, healthier relationship with your kids. Are you doing that? Or are you just saying, hey, we'll call you at this time, right? And there's a difference between reminders and selling the call or selling the appointment. Or, hey, want to let you know we're super psyched that you're interested. I need you to give us a call now because we only have 10 more spots for the month of May. And after that, we're closing down this $850 special, right? What are you doing to increase the number of booked appointments and having a better conversation? Again, relying on automations will not give you the answer. You're just going to be throwing stuff in the wall, being very, very frustrated. What about the show rate? Are we doing same day or next day? Are we deep diving into the pain from the previous example? Do we have hours and locations that match the market? A great example, by the way, is we will have some clients that are not open on Fridays because that's how they just want to live their life. Except the vast majority of people, it turns out, will take a half Friday and go to their appointments. If they're not open Friday, guess what? They're going elsewhere. If it turns out that you've got clients whose customers work for a living and you're only open 9 to 5 like a bank, you're going to have a bad time. So you need to open early morning, be available for lunch or after hours, or have a Saturday or Sunday, right? If your show rate is horrible, you need to explore why. Are people going to the guy down the street because he's open? It happens all the time. And what you really need to view your client like a restaurant. Like if I'm hungry and I'm at the restaurant's doors and they're not open, am I waiting to the next day to eat or am I going next door? And the vast majority of time when we deep dive into the pain, people are like, all right, I need to solve this immediately. And the business doesn't pick up the phone or they're not open or something like that, you're not gonna have a good time. You can even do like a show up bonus. Hey, Mr. Johnson, I'm super happy you're coming in. You're scheduled in for Friday the 14th. A couple questions. Is there anything stopping you from showing up? Awesome. Do you know how to get there? Cool. Awesome. Want to let you know if you decide to bring somebody with you, we're going to give them $500 off if they sign up for the service. And just by showing up to your appointment, we're going to give you a $20 gift certificate to Starbucks just to appreciate the time and blah, blah, blah. Right? Are you giving show up bonuses? If not, you're going to have a default and you're not going to be moving the numbers in the right direction. And then the close rate, 20%. You need to have 1 out of 5 closing. Of course, higher the better. But if your numbers are bad, why is that? Are they going next door? Are you doing a quality assurance check? Are you incentivizing fast action with a fast action bonus? Want to let you know, Mr. Johnson, we're super to have you in the office. To let you know, if you decide to move forward with treatment, not only going to knock $500 off, but you can be part of one of the 15 people to take advantage of this limited time offer. And if you don't, that's okay. But the special is only available for people that move forward with treatment in the next 7 days. There you go. So are you incentivizing fast action? You don't really know this until you get a script and you have feedback and you call your competition, things like that. But for the most part, you need to be doing stuff like this. The default, by the way, is never automations. Automations are after something that works, not beforehand. Again, automations are after something works, not beforehand. This is really how I view agency, numbers, dollars, all that fun stuff. Now that we've established this, we're going to be going over the numbers. So just imagine that, again, you're in charge of the factory and you're doing projections and you're trying to figure out this whole thing. And you open up your Excel sheet and you're going, all right, Jeff is saying like the 525 rule. We need to know if these numbers are going to work, if we're going to be happy, all that fun stuff. So you open up your internal projections, kind of like you did in like business school or something like that. And so here are your factory settings. Cool. A $5 cost per lead. And we got 50 leads that cost us $250. 20% of those people show up. 20% book an appointment, 50% show, 20% close, and we made $3,000. Cool. That works. We spent $250, made $3,000. Everybody's happy. Yes, your management fee is not included. Yes, your client's costs are not included, but hey, as long as it's above 500 to 600%, you're good, right? We're kind of ignoring like the details of business stuff. We're trying to have that factory level, that manager, that overview setting. So let's start playing with these numbers. Let's say for whatever reason, your cost per leads shoot through the roof. They double overnight. Cool. Now the cost of your campaign has doubled. And then let's just say for whatever reason, your front desk, your VA, your ISA, or your client's front desk or their ISA or whatever, For who knows why, all of a sudden appointments are down. Just by an increase in cost per lead and appointments are down, all of a sudden the campaign bombs. This business owner, your client, is still doing a good show, a good close, charging normal stuff. But guess what? Leads are expensive, appointments are down, and that's why your campaign isn't working anymore. Very, very simple. Most people, by the way, don't have this top-down view, and they spend most of their time kind of like just responding to stimulus instead of saying, all right, how does this play in? Let's go back to this. Let's just say it goes back to normal and you're like, wow, all of a sudden we're happy, our clients are happy again. And then you're like, hey, Mr. Johnson, look, right now you're doing a 20% close. What I want to do is I want to test a different idea. Instead of going for a $2,000 close, I want to test monthly payments. Would you be interested in ad set to do monthly payments? They're like, great, fine, sure, let's try it out. You change the ad, your cost per lead is the same. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is like a total bomb. Like the cost per lead is absolutely the same. We didn't do anything. Ugh, whatever. That's not true. A poor agency owner will only look at this, just like a poor business owner or factory owner will only look at this. Like, oh, we couldn't get our leads or our inputs or our materials costs down. Well, what about the rest of the line? If all of a sudden you're pitching and you're selling monthly payments instead of paying full, and you incentivize people saying, hey, want to let you know this monthly payment option is only available for the next 15 people to actually like book an appointment. Be sure to pick up when we call and we'll see if we want to do business. Cool. And now all of a sudden, more people are showing up to their appointment. Hey, Mrs. Johnson, we're super happy for you. Cool, great, fine, perfect. You still have a 50% close, but you give new scripts to your client, and all of a sudden, they're closing more. All of a sudden, their close rate doubles. And now, for the same dollars, with a different ad that didn't do anything different according to your numbers, we're jumping up and down. We're literally jumping up and down. That's why this stuff matters, because most agency owners and most quote unquote media buyers, which is what most agency owners happen to be, only focus on this thing. And the good business owner will focus on happening all the other stuff. Your clients, by the way, are only looking at these numbers. And if their shows are bad or their closes are bad, they're having a horrible time. Most agencies are only looking at this number. Our cost per lead is down. Does that matter? What about the rest of it? Here's another example. Let's just say that your cost per leads shoot through the roof. You burn your budget. All of a sudden, you only have 20 leads. You only have 20 leads. Your appointment rate is still the same. Your show rate is still the same. Your closing rate is still the same. And you don't even have a close. There's not even like a person here to close. Somebody doesn't show. That's why cost per lead jumping up is a freak out for most agencies. They're like, oh my God, my cost of materials is through the roof. Like, oh, all the mushrooms are selling. I don't care. Introduce a new hook, a new ad, a new offer, get more people in the pipeline, change stuff up. If all of a sudden our cost per lead shoots up, what are the other things that we can do to play with it? If all of a sudden it turns out Coca-Cola is buying all the ad space on Facebook and Google for whatever reason in Miami, Florida, I can't control this anymore. What are the stuff that I can control? What appointments, what scripts, what outbounds, what communications can I do to get a 50% appointment rate? What can I do to get a 50% show rate? What can I do to get a 50% close rate? And now all of a sudden we're even making more money, even though the cost per lead has 5x'd. This is how you should be thinking about your agency as a factory. Now, what happens most times is an agency like me or anybody watching will say, okay, these are the defaults. And then they freak out when the numbers move up. Well, you and I both know LA, New York, and Seattle just going to be more expensive. That's just how it's going to be. Downtown Kansas City is going to be a lot cheaper. You have to find the signature and the settings to your client, to your offer, to your geography, and all that fun stuff. As an example, we have a client in LA. His cost per lead, we can never get under 20 bucks. Never happened at all. We're just going to assume it's $20. Yeah, we'll introduce cost per leads, but we've done everything that we could to play with this. There's no longer an advantage to trying to get a lower cost per lead. So what are we doing now? We're trying to play with these numbers right here. And we're introducing retaining referrals and upsells. So when a client does buy, it's not just that client, but bring a friend, bring a family. Can you refer somebody? I'd be happy to pay you a referral fee. And now all of a sudden, 3,000 becomes 6,000. And the numbers begin to work all over again. This is why me as an agency owner doesn't really freak out when the cost per lead shoots through the roof. There are 4 or 5 or different ways of playing with my factory so that people are happy with my service. This is the basic idea of how you should be thinking about it. This is like agency owner stuff, not Facebook ads guy or gal, not email guy or gal, not somebody accidentally sitting in a silo just trying to get a lower cost per lead. Yeah, lower cost per lead is better, but you know what? They aren't showing up to the booked appointments. They aren't showing up to the in person. They aren't closing. There's no ROI. Oh my God, Jeff, but a higher cost per lead is bad. Not necessarily, buddy. I'd be more than happy to pay $1,000 cost per click if they end up going through the appointment, show, and close, right? This is how you should be thinking about what you're doing and how you're doing it. This is the thought process that most people end up mistaking or not doing a good job on. Like, do you have modules on how to retain, referral, and upsells? Right? Are you constantly introducing creatives and creating a hook factory and just pumping out 5 or 6 different ways of communicating what your client has to sell? Are you constantly going to your client saying, hey, we should try this out and see if we can get more people booking an appointment? Are you testing out different scripts, ways to communicate and putting yourself in position where, you know what, I know that on average, clients in Miami, Florida will have a huge booked appointment rate. But you and I both know, Mr. Johnson, show rates are horrible for this space. Well, with the last campaign, you got 30% show rate, right? Well, look, as long as you're selling a $3,000 thing and you're closing 20%, according to this chart, you should be good. Just like that. Oh, you're only selling a $1,500 thing. Honestly, the way we're seeing is you're going to have a bad time. Like, you're just not going to make any money. Oh, you're going to get it to, on average, your client's worth $5,000 over 6 months. Okay, cool. And in that case, we're working, right? You can have a geography conversation. You can have an industry or a niche conversation. If you're looking at like hair salons, the cost per lead is like $3, right? But the appointment rate, people booking the appointment, is abysmal. It's like 10%. But out of those 10%, 100 people show up and 100 people buy. Isn't that cool? Like, what great numbers. We got 100 people to show up and 100% of the people to close, except there's not enough volume. The client is saying, we only got two people showing up. Okay, well, what did you sell them? We only sell them a $69 thing. It's not going to work. It's flat out not going to work. You need to have more leads, or you need to have a higher dollars per sale. Mr. Johnson, we need more leads. You have to give us more budget. You have to commit to spending $500 this month. If you don't commit to spending $500 this month, I don't see how this is going to work at all whatsoever. Look at these numbers right here. Like, if we want to achieve the goal, we need to be getting at least 167 leads at $3 a pop to use the $500 correctly. And that's what's going on. You need to give us more money. And you know what? I know that 10% of the people are going to book, but it looks like we're going to have 16 to 17 people in there and making money. And it looks like if we spend $500, we make $1,100. But I know you're not going to be happy with that because we need this to be 500, 600% to cover costs and stuff like that. So you got to figure out how to sell $225 per stuff. At a minimum, at an absolute minimum, we're talking 190. Let's see what's going on here. I'm trying to find that 500. 148, 149, 150. There we go. Yeah, math. Welcome to my life, right? So at a minimum, Mrs. Johnson, when someone's sitting in the chair, you got to figure out how to sell them $150 worth of stuff. If you don't, this campaign is going to bomb. And all of a sudden, the narrative with me and the client isn't the campaign is horrible. All of a sudden, the narrative with the client is like, look, I can get you people sitting in the chair, but this campaign is going to bomb if you don't sell. Did you want to try this out for 60 days and see if you can sell? Oh, it turns out, Mrs. Johnson, you only sold $75 per stuff on average. Gotcha. Well, is it definitely not great? Like, I don't know if you're happy with this. Okay, great. We'll renew. You're not happy with this. That's like what I mentioned before earlier. Like, you know, if you're only selling $75 for this stuff, it's not going to work. But I do have all these modules on how to sell other stuff to them. And if you like, I can do a mass text message to everybody saying if they want to schedule their next balayage and get 20% off. Maybe we can get the average dollars per sale for this campaign from 175 and just get one whale and all of a sudden it becomes 180 and now you're jumping up and down. This is how you should be thinking about that type of stuff. This is how you should be communicating. All too often, we have just a passive or uninterested understanding of how your campaign should be operating like a factory. If you want to take the next step, your agency should be operating like a factory. What's our cost per lead, booked appointment rate? What's our close? How often do they stick around? Do we have a referral program? What's the ROI? Businesses should be operating like this. Your ad set should be operating like this. But most people don't even think about it like this. So I hope this was like impactful for like what we're trying to accomplish. Again, treat your campaign like a factory. What are the inputs? Leads, booked appointments, shows, and closes. What's the ROI? Are you upselling? Are you having a conversation with client and reviewing the numbers? Are you? Chances are you're not. And speaking of signatures, like I mentioned earlier, like every campaign has its own ways of working. We got somebody in my paid program that's doing pools. They are generating like $5 per lead for a pool that could cost between $40,000 and $80,000. When they schedule an appointment, they have like 75% of the people showing up to the appointment, calling, having conversations, sending somebody out. But when they see that $70,000, they're like, oh my God, there's no way this is happening. So their closing rate is horrible. Or sorry, their show rate is horrible. And then their closing rate is horrible. So their show rate is horrible. And then their closing rate is horrible. But honestly, they don't give a shit because their pool is $40,000. And they're like, wow, this is so cool. Like, wow, we got 167 leads at $5 a pop, and we got a sale out of it. We got a 5,000% return on investment. That's how you should be thinking about this. Every business and offering campaign has like a different signature. When we mentioned earlier, we talked about dentists, then we went hair salons. I think we talked about pest control and now pools as an example. So I think that's it for this mini lesson. If there's any other questions, I'll stay on board for a little bit, but feel free to like put in the chat or something like that, ask any questions, and ultimately we take it from there. I hope this was like impactful for somebody, but I think that should be it. Let me know what else you got. Let me just double check.